Look, yesterday the president declared his assets and to the Auditor General, and he gave his appointees 31st March deadline. And we've had this conversation before where the Constitution is clear. Before the assumption of office, Raymond,
yes,
you declare your asset.
Yeah, some have referenced some 60-day whatever.
No.
Really, before the assumption.
Before the assumption of office. But when the president declared his assets, while he fulfilled the constitutional provision, some have asked, and when we have asked this question, why didn't he just make it public? Yes, the Constitution doesn't say you make it public, but because there's been a lot of talk about changing things in this country, and we've all commended Attorney General Dominic Ayine for explaining why he filed nolle prosequi, even though the Supreme Court says he's not bound by any law to explain. Why are we still going the same opaque way of declaration? Daniel Domelevo is a former Auditor General, and he's joined us. I see the smile on your face. Mr. Domelevo, good morning, and thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much. If you give me Attorney General, I'll take it.
Good. So, I mean, we've been having this conversation informally, and we've asked the question, couldn't this just have been the best time, even though the Constitution doesn't ask him to do so, and then set the tone for a new wave of transparency?
Yeah, you are more than right. In fact, the president missed the opportunity to have changed the paradigm, to say that, look, I'm not required by law to declare it publicly, but Auditor General, publish what I've declared for everybody to see what I have before coming into office, and maybe even call upon his appointees to say, look, my friend, we believe in transparency, so publish what you are also going to declare. And I think that will have taken us a notch higher than where we are. But he tried to comply with the law, and as my friend and you, Raymond, and you have alluded to, all the public office holders since 1993 have held and complied or tried to comply with Act 550, which gives 6 months after the required date of declaration, to the detriment or to ignoring what the Constitution itself provided. Yesterday on PM Express, your colleague Blessed Zega showed a letter which emanated from the then Attorney General Honorable Gloria Akufu. And that letter was in response to a challenge thrown to her by Occupy Ghana. Occupy Ghana was challenging the constitutionality of Act 550, allowing people 6 months after the date where they are supposed to declare their assets and liabilities. And Gloria, in her response or letter, agreed in total with Occupy Ghana that it was contrary, or the provisions of subsection 4 of section 1 of Act 550 was contrary to Article 2861 of the Constitution. However, how many years down the line? It was January 2020, about 5 years or more down the line. Nothing has been done. In fact, she assured in that letter that she was going to seek cabinet approval so that they can amend Act 550 so that it will be in conformity with the provisions of the Constitution. Nothing has been done. Since I came to office in 2016, I came across what we call the Code of Conduct for Public Office Holders, a bill which was prepared as far back as 2013 or thereabouts. That bill has been on the table throughout. If you remember last year, the then president, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, promised us that he was going to give us an international standard level of asset declaration law. He was going to make the law to meet international standard. Up to today, zero. So that is where we are. Public office holders and politicians have not been forthcoming on these changes that we are requesting for, because I think it maybe hurts their interests.
Section 4 of the Code of the Conduct of Public Officers Bill 2018, which never saw the light of day, states that a public officer who holds office in the first schedule as specified shall submit to the Auditor General a declaration of A, assets owned directly or indirectly by the public officer, and B, liabilities owned directly or indirectly by the public officer. The public officer shall submit the declaration to the Auditor General in accordance with Article 286 of the Constitution, A, before taking office, B, at the end of each 4-year period, and C, at the end of term of office of that public officer. The public officer shall submit the declaration not later than 30 days after the occurrence of any of the events specified in paragraphs B and C. That's at the end of 4 years. So the original declaration is before taking office. Now, at the end of the 4 years, when you are doing the declaration again, it is that time that the 30 days kicks in. I know you are aware this is a law that never saw the light of day, but would they have cured the mischief that's been bandied about consistently?
Yes, I am aware that. Yes, I am very much aware. But if you read at 550, subsection 4 of at 550, section 1, subsection 4, it provides that in any case, the above declarations, which is before taking office, every 4 years, and upon leaving office, must happen within 6 months. And that is what they have been living with all this while.
Okay, yeah.
So the bill we are talking about was reducing it from the 6 months to, I think, 30 days.
Yeah, 30
and even
days.
that, I do not see the reason. I will argue that apart from one office, which is the Speaker's office, all the other officers can declare their assets and liabilities before assuming office. For instance, the president was elected and he knew he had won the election on 8th of December. And from that time to the day that he was sworn in, he could have declared his assets and liabilities. And we will have complied with what the Constitution said. Again, the members of parliament, when we went for the election, I think some of them even knew that they had won on that same day. I mean the 7th. Yeah. Latest by the 8th, they knew that they had won. So they have about a month to declare before being sworn into office. So if the speaker had asked all of them to declare their assets and liabilities before swearing them in, I think it would have been fine. Ministers, they go through vetting. Immediately, they finish the vetting and they are approved. I think the first directive the president should have given to them is that go and declare your assets and liabilities before you assume your office. The other officers, that is public office holders, the public servants, police, army, army that is not included, audit service, judicial service, etc. When you apply and you are going through the interview before you resume office, your appointment letter should say that declare your assets and liabilities before taking office. The only office which I will have agreed that provision will be very difficult to apply to is the office of the Speaker of Parliament, because you know the Speaker is appointed in the night of the 6th of January 2025, and he takes office almost immediately. So he even does not need 30 days. You can say that within a week of becoming a Speaker, declare your assets and liabilities. So I agree that politicians are not just interested in declaring these things on time, but we should not focus only on the asset declaration in line with the current legal regime. I think the regime as at now is actually not fit for purpose, and there are some changes we must ask for so that it can be used.
In fairness, what was proposed as a Conduct of Public Officers Bill could equally not be fit for purpose if you are following your argument.
True, but you see, these are public office holders who are not ready to do things, so they argue. But you see, the office of the president and ministers, etc., are very important offices. So you can't say they should declare before taking office. I don't buy the argument anyway. So that's why they reduced it from the 6 months to what you are saying. Did you say 30 days or 3 months?
30 days.
30 days.
To 30 days. Yeah. The 30 days is enough for a public office holder to know how juicy the office is and how he can abuse the office and start doing anticipating declaration. He has a piece of land which is going to put a 20-story building on. He declares it. And when he leaves office and you ask him, he will tell you that I declared it. And a more interesting point, when I became Auditor General, one of the questions I asked is, if they say you should declare your assets and liabilities to me, and you say you have declared by filling a form, where's the evidence that you own those assets or you owe the liability? So the question I was asking is, can't I go after their land title documents, ask for the ownership of the car? If there's a liability, the loan agreement they should send to me. If they say they have millions in their bank account, why don't you bring your bank statement, etc.? I tried to consult with a few friends of mine who were in the legal profession as well as in the politics side. And I realized I was not going to win, because I was told by some of my friends, some of them actually Supreme Court judges, that you see, procedure and practices are also part of the law. If this is what Auditor General has been doing since 1993, why do you want to change it? People are going to challenge you. And I said, I want to change it because I think it was defective. He said, well, that is for the court to decide. And I realized that if I reach the court, I will not make any progress. So I dropped it. That's why I've been confessing that we should change the law, and that makes it easier for us.
And talking about changing the law, you've talked about, changes that we must bring about. What are some of these changes? Beyond making it public, what else?
Beyond making it public, the Auditor General must verify the assets. But when you say, I've declared something to you, I don't think it is when I fill a form and give to you. It is when I see the thing you are declaring. So if you say you have a house, which is a 6-story building, I must go and see the house and see the title document which shows that it is your house. So verification, fiscal verification of the assets and the liabilities, I think will be very necessary. 2, non-compliance must be punishable. You remember some people were sent to Commission for Human Rights and Administrative Justice, and they were all set free because the commission says that the law does not prescribe any punishment, which I beg to differ, because if a law, the Constitution says that you must get A level before you can go to university, and we find you in university without A level, the only thing you have to do, the first thing you have to do is to sack you. But the law says declare your asset before occupying the office, and you have not declared, and you are in that office. Is it not acquiring or occupying the office unconstitutionally? So the first thing to me, or the logical thing, was to remove those people, but church thinks otherwise. So it has been all this work. So there must be consequences, penalties for not doing the right thing. So I think these will be necessary. But in addition to that, we must introduce lifestyle audit. If we don't do lifestyle audit and we strengthen the assets and liabilities declaration, public office holders, I'm not saying politicians. When I use public office holders, I'm talking about both public servants and politicians. Public office holders are going to hide their assets and liabilities in the name of their family and friends. So we need lifestyle audit to say that, look, Daniel, you are appointed Auditor General maybe for 2 years, and now you own this mansion. You know the salary of Auditor General, even if you don't spend anything out of it, cannot put that up. Show us how you made it. Or we know that your son, who says he's a student, he has never worked, is owning a mansion. How did he get it? So that lifestyle audit, and also what we refer to as the reversal of the burden of proof. We don't need the prosecution to prove that you stole money to acquire that asset. Once it is proven that the asset belongs to you and your known sources of income cannot match it, the burden should shift to you to explain how you got those resources or assets.
I will come to the point about a lifestyle audit, but permit me to take you back to that bill you referenced earlier. It talks about in section 9 failure to submit a declaration or clarification. It says a public officer who fails to submit a declaration or clarification as required under this act, or submits a declaration or clarification that contains information which the public officer knows or to have known to be false or misleading, commits an offense and is liable on summary conviction to a fine of not less than 100 penalty units and not more than 200 penalty units, or to a term of imprisonment of not less than 6 months and not more than 2 years, or both. Is this punitive enough? In fact, these terms are a step down from the original PNDC law.
Thank you. In fact, if I don't have it anyway. The submission we made to Honorable Brother Yakuf was that, in our opinion, the need to declare assets and liabilities was a prerequisite for occupying public office. Some public offices, not all. For some particular or the specified public offices, you must do that before you occupy it. So when you are found to have been occupying that office without complying with the law, the first punishment should be removal, and which I think the president has threatened his appointees to say that if they don't declare by 31st of March, which I find too far away, there will be a sanction including removal from office. So I think we should not be too lenient. You see, Raymond, if you say somebody should pay how many penalty units? Many of them will pay. Units. Many of them will pay without blinking an eye. Maybe it's only the jail terms which they may fear. But if it is only and I'm sure the judge who knows that he also may fall liable to the same offense or may fall into the same situation, is not likely to jail anybody for it.
Okay.
So they may say pay penalties, and then the person pays it and he has not declared, and he or she goes free. So I think we must take it seriously. If we are not going to do it, let's just stop it. Because it is a lot of effort and brings nothing to us.
Let me just say that we've also been joined by Professor Ransford Jampo, who is CEO of the Ghana Shippers Authority. And I'm told he's actually declared his assets already. Professor Jampo, good morning, and thank you very much for joining us.
Morning.
Good. When did you declare your assets?
Hey, one time. I think the very day or a day after I went to the office.
Okay.
I told my friend Martin Pebu to get me the form. He delayed, and so I got some other people to go get me the form, and then I filed it with alacrity. And I called the Auditor General himself that I wanted to submit it, and he was glad to hear that I wanted to do that. So, but unfortunately, he was not in the office, so he directed and I leave it with one of the officials who scrutinized, and afterwards, I've given a receipt. So, as a teacher, I stated what the little I have. I stated it on, so I gave it to them.
But I mean, the appointees had up to the 31st of March to declare their assets.
Well, I'm not thinking about that. I'm thinking about myself. I think that the right thing to do is to let go by what the law says. So I just did it with alacrity. All others must do same, so that you are seen to be honoring the law. That's all.
So if I get you clearly, you were prepared to go by the constitutional provision and not the directive you had been given.
That is what the law says, and so you do it. And the directive just came in to remind people and to reinforce what the law is. So maybe for those who may have forgotten, the directive is good, so that you do the needful.
Great. Before I get to, how you, how your new experience is, we've been talking to Mr. Domelevo, and he's been telling us how the president, for instance, could have actually changed things by making his asset declaration public, even though the Constitution says you don't have to. What's your take on that?
I think that we have to go by what the fundamental law of the land says. But I also have always argued that sometimes rigid adherence to laid down rules and constitutional provisions would usher a people into a regime of robots. The Constitution has many flaws. It has provisions that hinder the maturation of our drive, the maturation of our democratization process, and that's how come it is being subjected to a review. And so I agree that sometimes you need a daring person to say that, though this is what the Constitution says, I believe that if we do it like this or like that, it would serve the good people of Ghana better. And so, to that extent, I feel that it will not spoil anything if those people who want to serve in public life also make their assets public. A public official must live in a goldfish bowl. That's what my teacher, Professor Achu Ayi, when he was teaching us public administration, taught way back in 1998. As in, people should be able to see you inside out. And if you are not comfortable, then don't go near public appointments. And this is a theory that we've been taught long ago. And so I feel that maybe as we review our laws, we can also take a second look at our asset declaration regime with the view to strengthening it, so that once you declare, it can also be made public to those who want to know the content.
And so for you, public declaration is the way to go?
First of all, I would say that we should look at the constitutional provision again, and if we think that it is not serving as well, especially in our bid to deal with corruption, then we should take a second look at it. If we want to go the route of ensuring that everybody gets to know, so be it. As a people, that should be that is what we may have decided, and then that should be way to go. So, but until we review the Constitution, those who choose to go by the dogmas of the Constitution are not also wrong in doing so.
Exactly. Those who choose to go by the Constitution are not wrong. But I just wanted your personal view. I mean, you've made it like, if that is what we want to do, is that what you would want?
As a teacher, I have little, so I'm willing to declare it.
Okay.
I'm willing to declare it publicly. And so for those of us who live our lives in the public domain, people already know what we have and what we don't have. And so I do not have a problem people getting to know what they already even know. I don't have a problem. But of course, some people also feel that they should have the right to privacy. And rigid insistence of privacy would mean that you do not have to go close to public appointments. I know people who are purely private people, and they don't want anything about them discussed in the public domain. And so they said people also shun public appointments. They don't like it. They don't like public appointments. I have a lot of friends who are like that. They see you and they commend you that you are in the public domain. But for them, they just want to keep to themselves and their family. They don't want anything that would force a discussion of matters relating to them in the public. And so such people, even if you are giving them public or political appointment, they will say no. And so the point is, people who seriously want matters relating to them to be treated with that privacy must also then gradually move towards the point where they will appreciate that, look, if you are looking for privacy, then don't go serve in the public domain. Because in the public domain, because it is the taxes of the people that are used to pay you, they must have the right to know what you have, so that they can be able to judge what you may have gotten after you have served them, and after you've been paid, if they are taxes.
Great. Before you go, let me just get your view on the Council of State, because I think not long ago, last week or two, we had this conversation about the relevance of the Council of State. At the time, Samson Ladi Anyenini was of the view that it's of no significance. Alhaji Nusa Fuseni believed that if put to proper use, it could be a very effective arm in our governance system. What do you say, Professor Jampo?
You see, you must contextualize, or you must appreciate what led to the formation of the Council of State. The whole idea of Council of State.
Hello, Professor Jampo.
You see, traditional times, we had Council of Elders who operated in the chief's palace, and they advised the chiefs as to how they can govern and how they can be successful. So if you recall, in traditional times, and for many Christians who have read the Bible, they will tell you that a chief was installed, he was 8 years old, and he had a successful regime. A chief was installed, he was 12 years old, 15 years old, and he succeeded. How can a 15-year-old or a 12-year-old or an 8-year-old toddler be successful in governing a traditional locality? It is simply because such a toddler in the traditional times sat on the lap of the Council of Elders, and they trained, they advised, they counseled, they prepared and mentored and helped him to govern, to be successful. So in the traditional society, a chief was a council of elder was always in the chief's palace way before the chief even was born. A council of elder owed his membership or his membership in the chief's palace as of right. As of right, as in he is the head of the family. They are respective heads, family heads within the community. So once you appointed a family head, automatically you become a member of the council of elders operating the chief's palace. And no chief had a hand in appointing members of his council of elders. Before the chief was born, the council of elders were already in the chief's palace performing. And so if a chief decides to misbehave, they will tell you, Nana Obetoye, you came to meet us here. Okay? So the chief had no hand in selecting members of the council of elders. And one of the reasons why a chief got distributed was his failure to listen to the advice of the council of elders. Now, we thought that in preparing the 1990 Constitution, we thought that it was a good thing to have a council of state to mimic or to perform the very role that a council of elders performed in a traditional, governance system. Unfortunately, we borrowed from that concept just to water it down. How have we watered it down? Number one, the president has extensive powers in appointing or constituting members of the council of state. He appoints quite a number of them. And then also, even those coming from the regions, he has an indirect way of influencing those who would come to be constituted as a council of state. And then secondly, the advice of the council of state is not binding on the president, unlike the traditional time where if you fail to comply with the advice of the council of elders, you got destroyed. By this time, the president can decide to ignore the advice of the council of state, and that will happen to him. But you put all these things aside and then come and look at this particular council of state that has been constituted. Somewhere around 2012, 2013, I was part of a group of people who were doing nationwide consultations on how to deal with fanatics or politics. Now, one of the issues, and that group had eminent members, including our revered former Council of State member, Mr. Sam Okujetu. And I remember that around that time we had argued that the Council of State was toothless and it served no purpose, and so it should be abolished. Then soon afterwards, President Akufo-Addo won elections, and then he made Mr. Sam Okujetu a member of the Council of State. And then he came out to say that, look, yes, the previous Council of State, they were not doing their work well, but yes, they would work very well. And I keep wondering the fact that Akufo-Addo never listened to any wise counsel and did whatever he pleased. Suggested to me that even though they may have worked, the president was not bound by whatever advice they may have given to him. Now, fast forward to the current Council of State that we have. I have a certain optimism that this particular Council of State will work.
Where do you get that from?
Because number one, there is a world of a difference between the persona of Nana Akufo-Addo and John Mahama. What I know between the two of them is that one listens, the other one will not listen. President Akufo-Addo wouldn't listen. President Mahama will listen. And so, if President Mahama will listen, then I am inclined to...
How do you come by that?
Well, I know it because I have been in Ghana for long and I have researched, and I know this
because I also know, for instance, Professor Jampo, I also know, for instance, certain appointments that President Mahama even made in his first term as president, where the Council of State were against it, but it was still made. I've had members of that Council of State tell me that we had concerns with this appointment, but he went ahead and made it.
Well, I am not privy to this information you are giving to me, but on the general scale, what I know is that in terms of listening and pandering to advice, I can trust President Mahama more than President Akufo-Addo. I've had several instances where people around President Akufo-Addo came to me and said that, look, whatever you are saying publicly, it isn't that the president doesn't hear, it doesn't know. He knows, he understands what. He is someone who simply cannot listen or pander to advice that is being given to him by people who are not part of his government. They told me. Okay, so I am inclined to believe that, look, President Mahama will listen more than President Akufo-Addo. And then also, to go out of his way to appoint somebody like Sufa Akufu as a member of the Council of State, it suggests to me that he wants to listen. Because that woman is a woman of his own mind. She is the chairperson of the University of Ghana Council. I'm a member of the University of Ghana Council. And I know what she does. I know what she can do. If you appoint her as a member of the Council of State, then it means you really want to listen. Because she would hold on to what she believes in. She will tell you what you must hear, and she will tell you what she thinks will be right and good for the nation. And if you won't listen, I know what she can do.
Professor Jambo, quick question on the Sophia Akufu appointment. If you were President Mahama with a team of former Chief Justice Kwesi Enin-Yeboah, Georgina Wood, and Sophia Akufu, whom would you appoint?
I think the appointment of Sophia Akufu is an excellent choice because I have had...
Of the three, isn't it obvious that Sophia gets the appointment of these three?
What do you say?
Georgina has been, member of the Council of State. So if you want to compare between Kwesi Enin-Yeboah and Sophia Akufu?
No, I will choose Sophia Akufu because I'm saying that I know what she stands for. And I have worked with her on the University of Ghana Governing Council before. I think I'm a very resilient and a very strong, I have my own voice, I have my own conviction, that guides in everything that we do. But at council meeting, You can see me and her. She disagrees with me, I disagree with her, and she's firm and assertive on what she thinks is the right thing to do, and regardless of who you are, she will tell you, so long as she is convicted that what she stands for is good. And so I have every confidence in her, and I believe that President Mahama is very much seized with what this woman stands for. And so if you really want the council, if you really want to listen, then you would go in for somebody like her. If you don't want to listen, then you can decide to say that, look, this woman, hold on to her own, and if I don't want to listen, then I don't bring her on board at all. So I see her appointment, her inclusion as part of the appointees of President Mahama as a willingness on the part of President Mahama to listen to contrary views, divergent views, and objective views as to how things can be done better to govern the country. And President Mahama himself, his ambition is to leave a legacy and go. And if your ambition is to leave a legacy and go, then you must necessarily listen to wise counsel so that you can leave a good legacy. And so I think that given the caliber of people who are now staffed with this current council of state, it is likely that they may be listened to, or they may wield some extensive influence on how the president governs the country. And going forward, we must, as we try to amend our constitution, generally we must also take a second look at the constitutional provisions bordering on the Council of State so that we can strengthen them. For now, I want to count on the personal qualities of the appointees so that they will be. I want to count on the personal qualities of the appointees in making the Council of State more independent and more powerful. But we cannot always count on personal qualities. We must tighten the rules and ensure that rules are strong enough to regulate how such agencies work, so that they will be more powerful and serve. They will be able to serve effectively as a countervailing authority to the overbearing powers of the executive president.
Okay. Professor Jampo, please hold on. We also have Daniel Domelevo, former Auditor General. When I return after these messages, I'll get his thoughts on that issue also, and then we'll wrap up the conversation. You've heard from Daniel Domelevo, you've heard from Professor Jampo. Both seem to be saying the same thing, but Daniel Domelevo actually talks about the need for lifestyle audits.
Now, let me bring to you the views of an amendment that we thought we could do to the Criminal and Other Offences Act. And it's important, Winston, that we attempted to fix this problem that we've had with our system for a while. Now, this view is encapsulated in this Criminal Amendment Act, Criminal Offences Amendment Bill 2021. This bill, among other things, sought to fix the problem under 2245F. It says here, illicit enrichment. A person in possession of unexplained wealth for the benefit of that person or another person who A, maintains a standard of living above that which is commensurate with the past or present known emoluments of that person, or is in control of resources or property disproportionate to the past or present known emoluments of that person, commits an offense unless the person gives a satisfactory explanation as to how the standard of living was maintained or how the pecuniary resources or property came under control of the person.
Okay.
And it says the person who contravenes subsection 1 commits an offense and is liable on summary conviction to a term of imprisonment of not less than 12 years and not more than 25 years. I.e., illicit enrichment would have been catered for under this amendment, which is a law that the Attorney General said was tears with and was in control of and put together. As to why this did not see the light of day right from 2021, I have no idea.
Great, which means we can bring in the Director of Communications and Strategy and Research at the Office of the Special Prosecutor. Samuel Apia Dako. So, Sammy, as we would call him here, Sammy Dako. Sammy, briefly, your thoughts on this, because we've been talking about the declaration of assets, particularly lifestyle audit. I know you've consistently talked about the reverse bidding, but that's not something we do here. What's your thoughts on these?
Okay, so as he read from the Constitution, it's not a case that Ghana has not taken steps on it. Ghana has taken steps on it with the Office of the Special Prosecutor Act and its regulations. So the Office of the Special Prosecutor Act has been given the powers to do a lifestyle audit. So it's not a case that Ghana does not have it. So if you go to Regulation 20 of the Office of the Special Prosecutor Act, it takes care of lifestyle audit. That is why when suspects are brought before the USP, they are asked to fill a lifestyle audit form. It's a form that the law says that we should give you 30 days for you to complete and revert to us. Anything you fail to declare, which the OSP is able to uncover, automatically is forfeited to the state. And that is why the OSP has powers to seize your property for 7 days without going to court, or to freeze your account for 14 days without going to court. All this is to enable the OSP to do a lifestyle audit. The only challenge so far has been that the OSP at all material times would have to prove how you corrupted yourself. And so when we talk about reverse betting, this is where we're tying it in, that to have a proper unexplained wealth law, it must be tied with reverse betting. That is, if the OSP, after taking all the income and property, and this even includes money you may be holding with your girlfriend, the form is quite exhaustive. If you are a suspect and you are asked to fill that form, you will know that it's very exhaustive. It's asking you of so many things, so that it enables the investigator to be able to properly investigate. If it means that the investigator needs to also go to the Auditor General to open your assets that you've declared, the investigator will do so. So it's a different form from what you declare the audit service, but this is a bit more intrusive. And refusal to complete the form is in itself a criminal offense, which attracts a prison term of not less than 2 years and not more than 4 years, or a fine, or both. That is if you fail to. If you remember Madam Cecilia Dapa's case, the OSP had charged her with refusal to declare her property and income as directed by the OSP. And people misconstrued that to mean as if the OSP had said that she had not declared her asset. No. That asset declaration regime is different from a lifestyle audit regime that the OSP has. And so the OSP then charged her. But consequently, these things were dropped because at the end of the day, the OSP realized that the main offenses did not fall under its remit, and that it sent it to IOCO. Yeah. So that is what I would say briefly when it comes to asset declaration. And also, if maybe I could add, the regime that law enforcement agency would be very pleased with is a regime that allows for verification and publication. That is what we need, because a person can declare things that he would want to own in the future. And remember, Parliament had passed an Asset Declaration Act, which is, people have said, is at variance with the Constitution, because the Constitution says that before you take office. But Parliament had passed a law and given a leeway of 3 months after you have taken office. So it's not wrong when people have declared the asset within the 3 months. I heard somebody say, not on your network, but said that President Mahama should have declared before or on 7th, but that is not so. He is well within the law because the law now provides for 3 months within which you can. Some have interpreted it to say that. But
the Constitution is a supreme law of the land. In the ranking of law, the Constitution is the highest. So why not the Constitution, and why an act of Parliament?
I understand, but people forget that acts of parliament are also creations of the constitution. When the constitution says that parliament can add on, it means that the constitution had thought about it and said that there are more things that I cannot cover, but parliament could. It's okay because...
But it's clear on this one. It's clear on this one when it says that, 3 months after the coming into force of this constitution or before the assumption of office. So post that is before the assumption of office. There's no ambiguity here, is there? Very clear.
I know there's no ambiguity, but once there's an act of parliament, unless the Supreme Court has made a definitive ruling on it that the Asset Declaration Act is unconstitutional, to the extent that there is no declaration of it being unconstitutional, it is part of the laws of Ghana. Even if majority of us think that it's not at variance or is inconsistent with the provisions of the Constitution.